Hi, I'm Emma, and this is a full moon class to help you find balance. We're going to be releasing any areas of tension or stress and finding cohesion between the two sides of the body. Let's get started. We're starting this practice on our backs. So go ahead and make your way down. When you land on your back, I want you to bend your knees, put your feet flat on the ground, and then just scoop your tailbone up. Lift it up and really lengthen out through the back here so that when you drop your hips down, the lower back is nice and long, connected on the ground. And then the backs of the shoulders, the back of the head is melting down, just coming into rest here. You can keep your knees bent if you have trouble keeping your lower back flat, if it ever gives you pain. Or if it feels better, you can let your legs go out long, your choice. If you haven't already, just allow your eyes to close. Just tune in. Arriving here on your back for the full moon. A time of heightened energy. If you work in healthcare or with children, or even with animals, you might notice that things get a little crazy during the full moon. So just notice if you feel anything in your body here, if you're feeling the effects of the moon right now, just notice what you're carrying in your body energetically. And then notice any places of tension, restriction, or holding. Find those places where you're holding on and see if just consciously you can soften them. Allow the backs of the shoulders to melt down into the ground. Both sides of the hips to be heavy. And the very center of the tailbone, the center of the back, is heavy and anchored here, holding you. Just see if one breath at a time you can start to deepen. Just pulling in a little bit more. This is a restorative practice, so we're going to be moving quite slow, taking lots of time. So there's no rush. If you're feeling a sense of urgency, see if you can soften into the present, into the right here, the right now, where all you have to do is lay on your back and pull breath down into your belly, into your lungs. Observing how things maybe have already started to shift a little. Noticing what it feels like to be here right now. And then setting an intention for this class, for this time. Full moon allows us to see things clearly. So setting an intention here to be present to whatever comes up during this practice for you. Together, we'll take a big breath in. And then if your legs were out long, I want you to bend your knees, put them flat on the ground, breathe out. We're going to bring the arms down by the sides here, press them down into the ground. And just make sure the heels are lined up. You can look down at your heels. You want your heels to be parallel with each other. And then you want the heels to be lined up with the hips, with the sitting bones right underneath you. Cool, and then just checking in with the shoulders. Think about stacking each shoulder over top of each hip. So finding some alignment through both sides of the body. And as you find that, you should feel the center of the body really start to engage, turn on, feel your core. Cool, we're going to press the arms down into the ground, press both arms down. And when you do that, the upper back body will engage. You should feel the chest start to open up. Cool. Inhale, scoop your tailbone up, just a little baby bridge to begin. Just lift your hips up, slide your knees towards your toes. Keep the shoulders grounded, the neck is soft. Wherever you find yourself, send breath into the chest, really feel it open and expand. On the exhale, see if you can soften through your spine. Feel the glutes work. Inhale, maybe the hips go up a little higher. Exhale, lengthen your tailbone towards your legs. One more big breath in, maybe press them up a little higher, really open through the fronts of the legs, the quads. And then an exhale, nice and slow to roll it down, one vertebrae at a time. Nice and easy. The tailbone's the last thing to land. We're going to hug both knees into the chest here. Give yourself a little squeeze. You can have the hands on the fronts of the shins or the backs of the legs. An invitation to find any movement that feels good here, any rocking or rolling. The full moon is a time to release things. When you see clearly, you can see what's working, but also what's not working. So this is a great time to let go of tension, stress, anxiety, or any other heavy feelings in your body. So find some movement that feels good. That rhythm, that shaking helps to let it go. And then find stillness. Hands are going to come on the knees, so right on top of the kneecaps, and then just holding your knees softly, let your feet, your legs fall away from your chest. Your arms will straighten out. If you're not sure what I mean, you can take a peek at the screen here, so that the hands are holding onto the legs here. We're really flattening out through the lower back. And then see if you can draw your lower ribs down towards your hip points here. So the belly is turned on, flattening out through the back body. And then see if you can tuck the chin into the throat here, so lengthening through the spine, through the lower back, through the backs of the hips. A couple of rounds of breath like this. Breathe it down into the space between the legs, the pelvic floor. Breathe in, soften. Breathe out to lift everything up towards the belly button, really empty out from the very bottom of your pelvis. So a couple of rounds of breath like that. Down and in. Up and out. Cool. Then nice and gently, nice and slowly, we're just going to draw circles with the knees. So imagine that you're drawing a little circle on the ceiling. Taking it around, hugging the knees up towards the face. The thighs come across the belly. And then taking it over the other way, dropping it down, just nice and gently, nice and slow. We're keeping the center of the back grounded here. And the weight of the legs as they draw this little circle on the ceiling is going to help to soften, open up the SI joints, the place in the lower back where the hips meet the pelvis. Or rather, the hips meet the spine, the torso. Go ahead and reverse your circles. You can take it in the other direction. If you find any sweet spots, if you find places that feel like they need extra attention, you can just pause wherever you rock the knees, that sweet spot, that place of release. All the while the upper body is soft. And even though we're working the lower body here, it will help to soften and release the upper body because they work together. So just notice sensations in the upper body as well as we move through this practice. Cool, we'll come back to center. We're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee and then hug, reach the arms through, hug the left thigh in. So we're coming into reclined pigeon here. The toes flex up towards the knee. making a figure 4 shape. And then just the weight of the hands either on the front of the shin or the back of the left thigh to help deepen that stretch if that feels good. Or if this feels like too much, you can just drop the left foot down on the ground and keep the legs further away from the torso, depending on your body. If you pull the legs in towards the chest, you're going to go deeper into the back. If you're especially restricted, it might feel better to have that foot on the ground. So just play with that. Do what feels right for your body. There's no right or wrong here. This time is all about tuning in, asking what you need, and then making adjustments, taking care of yourself. One breath at a time, one pose at a time. We've got some longer holds here, so just tune in, observing how things are changing, shifting. If it feels too much, if it feels uncomfortable, you can always rock and roll. You can shake and move the hips, the legs, if that feels better for you. Breathing nice and deep, just allowing the breath to move here. Notice if you start to tense up, if you start to hold your breath. See if you can come out of it a little. Find your appropriate edge. And then breathe. Sending it down into that right hip joint, into the bottom of the pelvis, the belly, the lower back, the side of the hip. Breathing out, letting go of anything you don't need here. We'll take one more breath like this. And then a long breath out to let it go. We're going to drop the left foot down on the ground if you haven't already. Right hand is going to grab onto the inside of the ankle. And then nice and slow with control, we're going to pull that leg open. Flex the foot down towards the ground and open the back of the leg up towards the ceiling. This is half happy baby if you're not sure here. So we're pulling that knee away from the midline, away from the body, over towards the right side. You should feel it through the inside of the thigh, the back of the leg, the hip flexor. With that left leg, the leg that is grounded, you can let that left knee fall open here. Find a little counterbalance, and this will really flatten out through the lower back, really hit some of those deeper muscles in the pelvic floor. If you're advanced in the practice, you can always send that leg out straight, let it go long, that left leg. Same thing here, we're going to hold for a long time, so if you want to find a little movement, a little rock and roll, if you want to shift, that's cool. You might notice as time goes on, as we breathe and soften, things are going to let go, and you might be able to pull that right knee down, maybe closer to the ground, open up just a little bit more. Don't push anything here, don't force anything. We're just tuning in, meeting resistance, and then using breath to soften. Do a couple more rounds of breath here. We'll take one more breath like this. And then an exhale to let it go. We're going to hug both knees in towards the midline, nice and slow. And then drop that right foot down. Both feet are planted on the ground. Inhale, scoop the hips up, little bridge to reset. Lengthen your back. Open the front of the hips. On an exhale, nice and slow, roll it down. Tailbone lands, and then we're going to cross the left ankle over the right thigh. Melt the knee down. Open up. The lower back is flat on the ground here. Just notice what's here. This side might be different. Anchoring through the center of the back. And then if it feels good, you can reach through with your hands, grab the back of the right thigh or the front of the right shin, and pull the legs up towards the chest. That feels good. The legs pulling up towards the chest will help you go deeper and change where you hit it. The right foot flat on the ground will help you find control and stability if things are especially tight or if they're not feeling good in this position. Adjust as you need. Same thing here, any movement that feels good. If you want to rock a little side to side. Notice if places have started to tense up in response to discomfort in the lower body. We're keeping the chest, the diaphragm, the tops of the shoulders, the skin of the face soft here. The upper body is relaxed. And the breath moves nice and easy down into the bottom of the body, sweeping through, opening up space, clearing out anything you don't need here. 5 more breaths like this. We'll take one more breath like this. And then as you let it go, we're going to release that right foot down on the ground if you had it lifted. So the right foot is on the ground. The left hand grabs the left ankle. And then nice and slow, we're going to pull that foot away from the midline towards the left side. Just go until you meet some resistance. You want to keep the center of the lower back flat. The bottom of the foot and the hamstring are shining up towards the ceiling. And then if it feels good, that right leg can fall out and away to find a counterbalance here. So the legs are spreading apart to help flatten out the lower back, the deep muscles of the pelvic floor. Hand on the belly here, just really invite the breath down. The space between the pubic bone and the belly button softens and lifts as you breathe in. As you breathe out, let go of any tension you don't need here. This is a big stretch for the hips, the pelvis, the lower back, but just notice if you're feeling it anywhere else. All these places are connected with connective tissue and nerves. Just notice. Finding those areas of tension and restriction. And then breathing into them, allowing them to stretch and soften. Using your exhales to let go of anything you don't need. Just a couple more rounds of breath here. All right, we'll take one more big breath in. And then a long breath out to let it go. Bring the knees in towards each other. Hug them into the chest. We're just going to rock and roll along the length of the spine, nice and slow with control. Make your way to a seated position. You can skip that part if it doesn't feel good on the back. We're going to swing all the way around, come onto the hands and the knees. Little tabletop. Press down through both feet, both hands. Make sure that both sides of the body are engaged here. So the hands, the knees, the feet are all engaged evenly. And then from here, we're going to step the right foot forward. Lift the heart up, stack it over the hips. Coming into a little kneeling lunge here. Take your time. You don't have to stay where you've landed. You can adjust where the foot has landed. We're going to stack that right knee right over top of the front ankle here, so there's a nice bend in the front knee. And then driving your weight down through that left knee, that back knee, so that the back knee is really holding your body weight here. You should feel the left belly, the core turned on. If you're having trouble with balance, that's totally normal. That's cool if you're wobbling, if you're shaking. You can keep the arms by the sides if that feels better for you. Or if you want to lengthen through your rib cage and catch the sides of the body, you can, on an inhale, just send the arms up overhead. Couple of rounds of breath here. This one is spicy. See if you can stay soft through your chest and your neck. Let your tailbone drop down. Breathe in, draw energy up through the front of the body. Breathe out, drop energy down the back of the body. Let the tailbone be really heavy. A couple of rounds of breath like this. We'll take one more big breath in. And then a long breath out. We're going to fold forward, plant the palms. Tuck the back toes and lift the knee, so that you can press into the hands and that back foot. And then we're just going to shimmy the leg, bring the outside of the leg down onto the ground here. So we're coming in a pigeon pose. The front shin lays down parallel with the front edge of your mat. And then we're going to untuck the back toes and just shift that left thigh back a little bit so that you can sink both sides of the hips really low here. Pigeon stretch. Nice and spicy. This is a full body experience here. Find the center of your pelvis, the very bottom of your pelvic floor, and then just see if you can really drop it low here. Share your weight evenly between both hips. We're going to work our way into it here. So you can stay here with your hands underneath your shoulders with the heart lifted. Or as time goes on and things start to let go, you can draw the belly across the front leg and drop down onto the forearms like this. Or depending on your flexibility, maybe you might be able to lay the forehead down on the ground. It doesn't matter how far you can go here. It doesn't need to be the biggest move. We're just looking for a place where we can breathe comfortably, stay soft through the torso, through the upper body, and share weight evenly between both hips. So find what that looks like for you. Inviting the heart to stay soft and open. And pulling breath from the very bottoms of the hips, through the torso, all the way to the heart. Just 3 more breaths like this. Last breath here, fill it up. And then on the exhale, we're going to plant the palms under the shoulders, tuck the back toes, lift the knees up, and then into the hands and the back foot, we lift our body weight up and slide that back leg back. Plank pose, just so that you can drop the knees down. We're going to just take a couple of rounds of cat-cow here. So inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Exhale, hug the belly in, drop the gaze down. Just a couple with your own breath. Just roll through your spine, little reset. Notice the difference between the two sides now that we've opened one hip. Just finish up wherever you are. One more cycle of breath. And then meet me in a neutral table. We're going to step the left foot forward and then stack the heart over the hips. Find this kneeling lunge on the second side. You should be able to see your front big toe. So just take a look here. That front knee is stacked right over the ankle. And then weight is pressing down through the right knee, the right thigh. Make sure the hips are square. You're sharing your weight evenly between your front leg and your back knee. And then same thing. If this side is wobbly, if you're not as stable here, you keep the arms down low, use them for balance. Or if you want to lengthen through the sides of the ribs, you can send the arms up overhead. Just 3 more breaths here. Big spicy stretch on this side for me. Just notice where you feel it. We'll take 1 more big breath in. And then a long breath out. We're going to hinge forward, plant the palms, tuck the back toes, and then lift your weight up, hands and the back foot, so that you can shimmy the outside of that front leg down and come into pigeon on the second side. Drop the back knee, untuck the back toes, work on sinking the hips low. Adjust if you need. This side is probably going to be different. Find what feels good for you. Movement is allowed and encouraged if this is crazy intense for you. And then with time, you might be able to hinge forward over that front leg, allow the belly, the heart to melt down. Maybe drop the forearms or drop the head. And maybe not. Maybe you stay with your chest lifted on this side. That's totally cool too. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's not about how far you can go. It's about finding that appropriate edge where it's just enough. A place of discomfort without pain where you can breathe nice and easy. So find what that feels like in your body. 5 more breaths here. We'll just take 1 more big breath in. And then a long breath out to plant the palms under the shoulders, tuck the back toes, lift up, send that left foot back, and then come back to the hands and the knees. Just a couple of rounds of cat-cow here. Any movement that feels good, shake it off. Nice. Feel those hips. I always get jelly legs after a hip opener, and I feel it now. So just notice how things are feeling. Cool, we're gonna let that go. Just come onto your butt so that you can make your way back down onto your back. We're gonna come back into a place of rest. And then when you land on your back, let your legs go out long, stretch your arms up overhead. Inhale and take a big long body stretch. Really lengthen your heels away from your hips. And then you can let that go. Bring the arms down by the sides here. We're getting set up for our meditation now. So if you need to grab a drink, if you need any final movement or stretching, anything that you need to get ready, to get settled in, do it now. And then we'll meet together lying on our back in a comfortable resting position with the eyes closed. Let the arms come down by the sides here. And just feel the effects of your practice in your body. How things have changed from when we started. And then sensations in the hips and the legs. Really check in there and feel the flow of energy. And then just making sure that you're sharing weight evenly between both heels, both legs, both hips, the center of the back, the space between the shoulder blades, the backs of the shoulders, the backs of the arms, and the back of the head. Everything is just resting. You aren't holding weight in more places. Everything is spread out nice and even here. The body is resting comfortably. Allow your feet to fall apart. Allow your chest and the skin of your face to soften. And allow your breath to move naturally here. I'm not going to cue any breath. Just filling up all the way to the top of your lungs. And then emptying out all the way to the bottom of your belly. Just finding a flow of breath. And just tuning in, finding any places that are still hanging on to tension or stress or any other feelings that you don't want to carry in your body anymore. Just taking a scan through, finding any places that are still holding on. Using the inhales to stretch and using the exhales to release. A few rounds of breath like that. Take in one more long, deep breath. Fill everything up. And then just let it go. Bring any movement or stretching in your body. Anything you need to wake back up. You can pause here if you have time. If you want to go a little deeper with your meditation, you can pause and then stay here as long as you like. Or you can make your way up to a seated position where we'll close. Feeling your legs, your hips, all of the good space that you've created in your body. That mood shift that comes with breath. And just show yourself some gratitude for taking time to connect with your body and to care for yourself in this way. Thank you for sharing this practice with me.